introduce Jim LeClair, who's actually going to give you an overview of data mapping on the internet and how people actually find you. Jim actually traveled down here from Maine to join us with this. He brings a nice specialty thing, and then we'll have the panel introduce themselves. So, Jim?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's a nice crowd. I came over from Belfast. My brother-in-law Matt lives over here. We come over here just to kind of recreate on this side of things. So I use the GPS to make my way over here, because a lot of people now are finding businesses on something that looks like this. And what we're going to talk about tonight is how your business might fit onto one of these, or in the internet in general. And we're trying to help you discover the best way to fit your business to some of the internet ways you could get some exposure there. So we're going to run this in about 10 minutes and then lead into questions. So what we're going to cover is, why is the internet important to my business, some definitions of what data mapping is, the 6 levels of data mapping that shows how business is represented, and then we'll have a roundtable discussion where your questions can be answered by this panel. So why is the internet important? This is one of my customers, lives up in Bar Harbor. He's a small business. He and his wife run a small business. I met him because his name is Richard Allen Taylor, Rats Clams, and he told me, Jim, I've got a real problem. I'm getting too many phone calls. Richard, how can that be a problem? He says, I'm a clam digger, and they've got my cell phone number on the internet, and I'm out in the clam flats digging, and it's interrupting me and costing me time and money. Then when they do the order, the internet has my address in the wrong place. I'm getting calls at 5 o'clock to pick up orders. They can't find me. So in Richard's words, let's see what he thinks about the internet.
Do you ever read the reviews on the internet?
My wife does, yeah. It's quite satisfying, knowing that how nice people can be, and to write about us up here in this little humble place, and with a good tasting product.
So what's the farthest away you think someone ever found you from?
I would have to say Singapore, Beijing, Timbuktu.
How the heck is anybody from over there going to find you over here?
Well, like I say, it's the technology of this world that we live in. They with the internet.
So on most days, Richard is completely sold out of his product by 10 o'clock in the morning, because he's connected now on the internet at the minimal level to match his business. So let's talk about some of the ways you can get on the internet. So data mapping, defined as the process of using both GPS services and information services on the internet, so people can not only find your business, but where your business is located. So there's 6 levels of data mapping. Okay? I'm going to go through this quickly. We can come up with questions afterwards if you have them. So the first level is these companies called business data aggregators. They keep track of the, used to be just name, address, and phone number for your business. That used to be pretty much all you'd have like in Yellow Pages or something like that. Now, your business can have many other ways to represent itself. It can have descriptive text about what you actually do. It can have categories, like we talked about tonight. What does your business do? Do you do product, services? Do you have a website, Facebook? All of these can be represented. And there's a bunch of aggregators out there that will compile this data and then distribute it. Because there's so many internet sites out there, if you try to do it manually, it would take you spend all your time trying to fill up these internet sites as opposed to actually running your business. So these aggregators maximize all this business exposure to get more and more people seeing and finding you on the internet. So, in a nutshell, aggregators is the text, anything that can describe your business as text. Name, address, phone number, website, Facebook, LinkedIn, some of the stuff we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's the text. The second part of it is now that they want to find your business, they've discovered it, they have to be able to find it. So most everybody knows about Google Maps, right? A lot of people use Google Maps on their desktop computer, but when they navigate, and you actually want to find your business, we define two types of businesses. The two types of businesses are called, one is brick and mortar. How many people here have a physical store that people have to walk in before you can do a transaction? Okay, so you guys are brick and mortar type of businesses. The other type of businesses are, I always call them Amazon business, because they sort of they exist on the internet, and no one asks you to do a transaction on the internet. The maps are important because they're all competing for your time. How many iPhone users here? About 40%. Back in the early days when Apple Maps came out, they were a disaster because they had incorrect information. Now, however, Apple Maps represents about 40% of the business navigation. So it's important to be on all the maps. Bing Maps used to be a player. They're not so important now because they sold off their business asset, which was Here Maps, to the German auto consortium. So, if you like customers that drive Mercedes, BMW, Audi, you probably want to be on these Here Maps. TomTom maps are used for GPS that are hard-coded into vehicles, like if you pick up a rent-a-car and they've got Garmin's installed in there, those would be hard-coded into TomTom maps. OpenStreetMaps and then Waze is a very, very powerful navigation tool. So it's good to be on as many maps as you can be, and it's most important to know how are your customers navigating to your business, because you want to be on the map that they're looking at. Every map site, every website that's out there, TripAdvisor, your local newspaper, or anything like that, if they use a map on there, it will be one of these maps up above. So when someone's looking for your business and they choose to navigate, it should not matter how they try to navigate to your business. You want to show up on all of them. So you can have a listing on each of these individual maps. These map pages also include what's called a splash page. If you look at like TripAdvisor or something like that, you'll see a small snippet of information about the business, like a photograph, address, little picture of what's going on. So these splash pages are pieces of information that people are going to see before they actually get to your website. So this is an example of Google Plus, which a lot of people don't really like, but this is one of the very first sites when someone's searching for you on the internet. Google is going to drive people to this page. This is called a splash page. It's going to have information about your business. Now, a couple of things that this shows, see there's kind of a square image here on the left, and a little round inset. As you're getting ready to represent your business on the internet, you need two fundamentally different types of business graphics. You need a square image that would be used in Facebook on your little profile page, and you need a horizontal image so that if you're going to do a cover page for Facebook or Google+. So keep in mind that you need to have some specific business graphics to fit these sites that are out there on the internet. Directory listings are listings of groups of businesses by category. So if you're running a lodging, for example, you're going to maybe show up on TripAdvisor. It's very, very important. Another woman here that's doing a home services organization business, there's no place for that on TripAdvisor. So the category that you choose to define your business is going to also define where you can show up on some of these sites. So when you start thinking about what your business does, keep in mind that you can have 5 different categories that describe your business. So I'm going to pick on this gentleman again, who's I know he's a hotel business. You could be a hotel, you could be corporate lodging, you could be tourist lodging, someone who's doing organizing could be doing personal services, home-based services. Each one of you wants to think about the 5 different ways you can describe your business, because the more ways you describe your business, the better chance people have of finding you. When people search for a business, it's all about the customer. The customer, even if they're looking maybe for one particular company name, they may forget. Like, I don't know if you told me the name of your hotel yet, but I forgot it. So I'm going to search for a hotel on a specific directory. And it's really important to know how you appear on the directories that match your business. I stayed with Mary and Matt here over the last couple of days, and we met up with one of my nieces, and we said, let's go to a restaurant. She did not tell us the directions to the restaurant. She sent us a Yelp listing to the restaurant. She's a 20-something, and that's how they communicate. So if your customer base communicates in a particular language, that might be one of these directories. You want to see how you appear on that. So these citations mean that as you start working your business identity out there, you want to connect with other people so that your business shows up in as many places as possible. So a citation is a listing of your business on someone else's website, which can then bring you referring business. This seminar did a wonderful job with citations. So this is on the SCORE site. All of the presenters have a citation on this SCORE site. It's wonderful. They list out my name and address, my name and company name. They put an actual live link to my website. And thank you very much, Denise. And then see all these little things down in here, these icons? These are the ways your business can communicate. So this one is an email address, a website, a LinkedIn. Anybody here know about LinkedIn? Facebook and Twitter. So it's really important as we get into this, do not overextend yourself in trying to represent yourself in too many places. We're all small business owners. You've only got so much time. You've got to really pick the ones that are important and do those well. Okay. So what I am is I'm a data service map provider. I help people figure out what of all these levels might best fit your business, and then I say you need to find someone else that might help you create a Facebook or a website or something like that, because there's a lot of work involved in setting all this information up. So that is my presentation. And now we're going to get into the round table where we can actually entertain your questions and try to do our best to answer them for you. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Paine, and I have Kate Paine Associates. I am a native Vermonter, lived in Vermont all my life, and for about over 20 years I've been in the public relations and marketing business, marketing from a promotion standpoint for small businesses and nonprofits. And my business now is focusing on personal branding. So that personal brand is helping you as a business owner or as a solo entrepreneur, even as a job seeker, to how to make yourself stand out from other people who do what you do on LinkedIn. So my focus is on LinkedIn. I also work in other areas of social media, but I primarily help people optimize their LinkedIn because LinkedIn's now very searchable. And if you think about when you type in somebody's name, whether you're going to meet them for coffee or whatever, usually what pops up in Google search are people's LinkedIn profiles. So I will be directing more of the answers to your questions regarding personal branding in general and LinkedIn.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lisa Wood. My company is Sprout New Media, and I also do branding work. Also web design and development, consulting, really just helping small businesses, micro businesses, and solopreneurs even, really help grow their business and primarily focus on the web. It's something that I've been doing full-time for myself since 2008. It's incredibly gratifying. I love working with people and watching the light bulbs go off and just helping to empower them to really just do this on their own and have successful, flourishing businesses. So I'm really happy that you're all here and looking forward to some great questions.
Okay, so I got to
stand up. I got to move around. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Denise Dukette. I'm a SCORE mentor. Been with SCORE for a few years now. I'm also the owner of Out of the Office Virtual Assistants. And for those of you who don't know what a virtual assistant is, get amazed, get prepared. It's going to be awesome. So what we do is we're the Gal Friday. Back in the day, you had someone in the office who kind of did everything. Yeah, we got the coffee, we made the copies, we did the filing, we got the dry cleaning, and we actually got some work done. Well, that's what I do, but I do it virtually. So I may not go get the dry cleaning. I will schedule someone to come get it. I may not bring in dinner. I'll get the takeout sent to your office. But I do it all from the creature comforts of my little home down in Virgins, and I've been doing it since 2006. So I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary. My business partner's here, so I'm happy to have some moral support. And what we primarily do is we work with solopreneurs and small businesses who they're starting out, they're getting their feet wet, they've been in business less than 5 years, but they're struggling because they have so many tasks that they don't know where to go. You know, from simple things to calling the daycare, formatting a Word document, making a form, you name it, we do it, as long as it's legal. But I've been doing it and I absolutely love it. And we're really fussy about who we work with. So when we find a good client, we keep them for years, not just a few months. We keep them for years at a time.
And you may never meet them face to face.
I try to make every vacation spot a place near a client so that I can meet them.
So you can see we have a wide variety of topics here. What I'd like to do now is turn this over to you for questions. Because there are a lot of people in here, we're going to try and take one question per person, and if we can get around, we'll do others. Try and keep them short so that, we can get through as many questions as possible. So since you had your hand up before, let's go first.
Sure. I have two questions. I'll ask one. There are just so many different channels for advertising your business, and mapping just a little piece of it. How do you find out what's working for you? Because you can't do it all. I don't think you can't maintain a very active Facebook page and a Twitter account and this and this and this. But somehow you got to figure out what's working for you and focus on that. And I don't know how to do that.
As you sign up for, a lot of times you ask your customers how they're finding you, and then if they say they found you on Yelp or anything like that, you can get a business account on that, and most of those accounts will record interactions from your customers, and so you can try 2 or 3 different accounts and find out which one delivers the most traffic for you. They're all free until you get to the point you choose to do some advertising. So before you get to the point that you have to spend any money, you can see the traffic from a site, and that can help you determine whether or not it's working well for you. Because you're absolutely right, they won't all work for you.
But that won't tell me who's actually coming to my business from that site, right? It might tell me who's looking at my business.
Well, individual sites, I mean, if you're connected socially, I'm going to defer that to the panel, because you're going to get some real feedback from those.
Feel free to jump in here, because I think I would say something
We're both like that.
We love to help people. One of the main things that you should be doing when you start your business, or if you're in your business and you're reworking it and you're trying to get into social, is to be sure to figure out who your target customer is. Who is your audience? And it may not just be one type of person. It could be 3. It could be 5. but know what they are. So am I trying to reach women who are the buyers of the family? Am I trying to reach millennials? Am I trying to reach baby boomers? Think about those types of people you're trying to reach. Then do a little bit of research. You don't have to do a lot, and figure out where they live on social media. Are they big Facebook users? Are they big Twitter users? Are they using LinkedIn? Are they using a mixture? It may make sense. I tell people with LinkedIn, for example, if Facebook isn't a place for you because you're a professional service or a product thing, and it's just not the right place, then maybe put your energy into LinkedIn to really build your personal brand, and then you can revisit that later. So it's a way that you've got to do a little bit of research to figure out who your audience is, and then that should help guide you where you need to be. It is overwhelming, and then everybody will say, oh, you should be here and here and here and here and here, and it's like, yeah, I can't do that.
And with that, there are also any of the social networks, I think most of them, as well as, they all have analytics, as well as Google Analytics for your website, and you can connect Facebook to that as well. So that will at least give you an idea of where people are coming from, how many visitors you're getting, and if they're staying, and if it's your website, for example, how many pages they're visiting. You can't necessarily measure ROI this way, because they may come to your Facebook page and then pick up the phone or go to your website, or we really don't know all the time where the sale's coming from, but you can measure the traffic, you can measure engagement through the statistics that are available and through talking to people and watching, really, and seeing what's
And to go along with that, you don't have to, you should focus on which social platforms you want to be on, maybe only a couple of them. Right. But it's important that, especially if you have a really creative name, something that you're trademarking, that you do at least get those profiles or pages signed up in your name. In our example, there are a bunch of out of the office or out of office. So I make sure that every time that I'm on a platform, it's all the same, that I'm on all of them. And I don't always populate information on there, but at least I have them all. I don't have to worry about anybody pretending to be me.
That's great advice.
So that, especially if it's a competitor, and, being naughty. Naughty on the internet. Oh.
Just a comment on that. If you're already in business, ask your customers, whether they're, e-commerce or face-to-face, ask them. I do that with my customers by email, and 99% of them will tell me how they found me. So, then you get an idea where they're coming from. Google Analytics tells you all sorts of demographics about your customer, all sorts of things most people don't even realize. Age, what operating system they're using, all sorts of data is out there. You just have to figure out how to mine it and use it.
Excellent. So, next question in the back.
I think I have a more elementary question in that I have a business idea and I want to do some market research to find out if it's a viable idea. So where do I start?
So you want to search for?
I want to see if there's actually a market.
It's 6 o'clock.
Just doing market research.
So what type of business is this?
It'll be an internet retail business.
Okay. So e-commerce is a huge animal in itself. What type of products, if you don't mind sharing?
It would be footwear.
Footwear? Okay. So, just off the top of my head, I would think that footwear would be a viable business online. It would be great to Google some of your potential competitors and see what they're doing, where they're showing up, where they're advertising, what their social media profiles are, and just kind of see what other people are doing, talking to potential customers for sure, engaging interest that way.
Your SCORE counselors are fantastic for that. Anybody else want to jump in?
If you're not finding something that is your niche, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a viable option. At that point, definitely contact SCORE and say, okay, this is exactly what I want to do, because it's confidential. What we do as mentors is, confidential, and I can't find any info on it at all. So maybe it's just a keyword search. Maybe you know, you're doing a search and it's not the correct term for Google, which happens. You know, we can help you find that and take it from there. But that's definitely the first step. And also just reading everybody, you know, if you do find a competitor, reading everything that they post on their blog, on their social media, and make lots of notes.
So with regard to business data aggregators and mapping, could you just review a little bit about when small businesses get involved with paying for this information? Are any of the business aggregators just interested in finding small businesses for the sake of having them and then doing their own advertising, or does it cost us to get involved with these mapping services and the business data aggregators?
The data aggregators buy business data and then resell it to other people that eventually are going to solicit your business. Is anybody here who already has a business? How long did it take for the credit card people to discover that? So if you start a business, an aggregator will pick it up. The big thing to do is to check that data listing and flesh it out further. Because when they pick it up the first time, it's usually not very thorough. So you really, the money and the cost comes in when you start wanting to buy advertising on some of these sites. Initially, you just might be paying a service provider to help you set it up, like someone like me, for example. But the aggregators are selling your data to someone else, so they don't charge you to do that.
My understanding of LinkedIn was that it was more like a resume sort of builder. Can you speak to like how that would be beneficial for small business?
Sure. So when LinkedIn was developed in about, I think it was 2005-06, it was meant to be a job-seeking tool. And to this day, people still have that perception that it's really just a place to be if you're looking for a job, or if you're a recruiter or a hiring manager and you're looking for talent. It has significantly changed, especially in the last probably year and a half to 2 years, to become a really great marketing tool. Is it the silver bullet? No, but it's become a real primary tool in being on business. So are you B2B, B2C, business to business?
B2C, yeah.
B2C, yeah. Okay. So with LinkedIn, first of all, think about the fact that, what's your industry, if you don't mind me asking?
It's furniture, manufacture, and resale.
Okay, so do you have a retail location? And okay, so you as a are you building the furniture? Okay, so you as an expert in your industry. Okay, so if you have your, I don't know your name, but John Smith, your personal page, you want that page to tell your story, tell something that's unique about you, and use search engine terms and keyword terms about your industry, your location. So like Vermont woodworker, for example. Perhaps the geographical location you want to mention, Burlington, Vermont woodworker. I'm just throwing out a very basic example. So now LinkedIn and Google are like this. So as I mentioned earlier, if you type in a search term, Vermont woodworker, they're not going to know your name is John Smith because they haven't found you yet. But you're more likely to pop up in the LinkedIn results, and Google's going to find you and rank you up higher too. That takes time. It's a slow dance. So for you as the individual that you are, telling your story, putting out everything out there that you can about who you are, samples of your work. You can put up video now. You can put up PowerPoint presentations. You can put up white papers, links, to the various things that you're involved with, including your social media. And then if you decide, if it seems worthwhile down the road, to create a company page for your business, then that is another tool similar to like having a Facebook page. So it all depends on, again, on your audience. But if somebody does find you, when you come across from the standpoint of being an expert in what you do, you're an expert woodworker, you know Vermont. Somebody could find you for that reason as a thought leader, and who knows what they would find in doing that. So having a solid presence, even the most basic sense, just makes sense altogether because it's a place where you control the message, and when people find you, they'll know about you. Similar to the data mapping, if the aggregates get it and they don't do a very thorough job, if you have a common name and it could be related to somebody else and they've got a bad online reputation for whatever reason, you want to make sure that your LinkedIn is good enough to at least know that people, when they're there, that's you. So there's a lot of answers to that question, but I hope that helps a little bit.
And so your personal story in that would be tied to your business only if you had like a company page? Because
No, it wouldn't,
about
it
the
doesn't have to
individual
be
more,
just,
or?
nope, it doesn't have to be tied to your company page, and you don't have to have a company page right out. I would suggest just get your personal one up there, because you are your brand.
Right.
You are your brand. So the summary, for example, if you're all familiar with LinkedIn, I kind of have a 3-part formula, if you will. Sort of break it into thirds. You have 2,000 characters in your summary. The first part should be sort of who you are and grab your audience and what you do. And then the middle part would be, is this the kind of product you're looking for? Are you looking for X? And then if so, the last part should be, this is how I solve your problem, or this is the product I create that you might be looking for. So that you're telling a story, it's compelling and interesting, and it's not just like the objective statement from a resume. You do not want to do a cut and paste version of your resume on LinkedIn any longer. It's not a good practice.
And couldn't also using the Pulse feature publish an article,
Yes.
especially like if you're
Yes.
doing, there's a feature in LinkedIn called Pulse Publishing, and you can tell a story. So if you're building like this fabulous piece of furniture, and you're documenting it, either video or photographs, you can basically write a short or long form post and publish it. And then that, depending on how many times you publish and your influence, will it'll start showing up in tons of search engines.
Do you like to write?
Yeah, I like to write, although I don't love like oversharing on social media. So it's like a balance. But
LinkedIn's
yeah.
different. You've got to think about LinkedIn is professional, and so you don't have to shout from the mountaintops every 5 minutes.
Right.
But if you have a consistent presence, even just weekly or even bi-weekly, depending, if you like to take photographs and put photographs in the Pulse publishing piece, you can even, if you're writing a blog for your website, you can repurpose that blog to go on LinkedIn's Pulse feature.
Yep.
You might want to change a few words so that you don't get slapped by Google for duplicate. But actually, people are finding far more reach on the LinkedIn Pulse feature than they are even on a blog.
You can also set up your blog to feed into LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it's free.
Automatically.
It's open to everybody. It didn't used to be.
Question for you, given that there are, and this is not a question about my business, we're buddies, including egging each other on, so, business buddies, and otherwise. Do you have any tips or recommended strategies for promoting an art-based business? So if you're an independent artist selling, paintings, collage, et cetera, it's wonderful that the internet, provides reach that was just unfathomable before, but of course there's a huge amount of competition out there from Etsy and all sorts of other things. Any tips or strategies of how to really get some traction in that area?
I mean, in terms of social media, Instagram comes to mind immediately, as well as Pinterest. And using those tools where you're going to be posting images, you want to have images that people will recognize as your brand, as yours. So whether you have a filter on them, or you have a watermark, your logo in the corner of the image. You post the image, and then maybe every few posts you have something else that's got an overlay to it with some text on it that says something about a message that you want to send to your customers or to your audience. Things like that, so that when people look at your feed, they can tell that there's a theme there and they're all yours. So that's part of your branding. With Pinterest, you would make boards. So do you use Pinterest at all right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use it a lot.
So-
You're familiar with it?
So
Not with
with-
my art though, I'm a full-time teacher as well, so.
Yeah, so you could make either a separate account. I mean, I personally have a mix of design stuff, development stuff, personal, inspirational, and it goes back to I am my brand. So people get a little insight to my personality and what makes me tick, and I'm sharing resources with them and samples of my work. So those are the two places that I would start with, or at least consider starting with in terms of social media.
And watermarking is a really important thing. You want to make sure that the images anything you post on the internet, anybody can find. So you don't want somebody to steal it. So make sure that you are watermarking everything that is yours, especially in the case of original art.
I put my URL, my website address on the bottom of the pictures. So if somebody does borrow it, I mean, yes, it could be cropped out. I mean, if somebody wants to steal your image, there are ways for them to do it. But if somebody just automatically shares it, your URL is there, your website address.
Can I just add one thing on the personal brand thing? It's simple. So what we've said, you are your brand. But that also means that's your expertise in your career, but you also want to show your human side because people want to do business with a person, not just the thing that you do. So keep that in mind. Letting people know about you in whatever way you feel comfortable about yourself, is really great to building those relationships, especially for doing what you do.
We found that it's really important that you understand the linking process. So do you have a website now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a website, I have an Etsy, and I have a Facebook account that's in my art name.
Okay, so it's important that when someone clicks on the image from your Pinterest, for example, they end up on the place where you're going to be, assuming you're selling these images. So if you have a website that has the images clearly laid out, you've got to pick one area that's going to be your primary place to display all these images. And then link from that either to Pinterest, Facebook, so when they click on that image, it'll return to your website.
Jim makes a really good point too. On any of your websites, on any of your social media, always try to include a link to something, even if it's a peer article that you're interested in and you want to put a thought about that, make a comment, okay, and show your expertise. But try to always link back. You want people to come back to your website. That's where you want to drive your traffic. And Lisa can speak more to how important that is. But just putting out content and having that sit on your website is good, but you want to use all your social media, whatever it is you're using, to drive people back to the website.
And put your website URL in your profile, please. I see so many pages that, or even personal Facebook profiles that I know the person has a business and they have a business page and they're interacting in business groups, but when you click on their profile, there's no way to know where their business is. So anywhere you can that you want to be found, that you want people to go to your website, and I'd say that's anywhere, make sure that your website URL is in your profile, and it should automatically be a live link.
And don't say that your business is self-employed. You know how many companies are called self-employed? None.
Oh, right.
So make sure that you use your business proper name when you're putting it up there.
Yeah, she brings up a really good point because these data maps are built a lot of times by robots, and if you use an inconsistent name between your Facebook page and your website and your Etsy page and your Pinterest page, the internet is going to be confused about what site this is. In fact, that's becoming a real problem with Facebook, in that if businesses haven't created their own Facebook page, but they've got an entity out there that people are finding, Facebook is auto-creating these pages, and you can just imagine what that looks like, because it doesn't have the information that you'd want on it. So be consistent with your naming across whatever site that you choose to use.
So I'm actually here for a little bit different reason. I'm involved with economic development in Essex, which for Jim is well, you know where it is, where you've been staying.
Well, I'm a little confused between Essex and Essex Junction.
Yeah, you want to stay confused, because that'll take years. So anyway, I got into this because I'm trying to improve sort of economic development issues there, and realized some of our largest businesses, some were listed fine and they had claimed their page on Google Maps, and I'm just trying to figure this out. And I would like them all to claim their page, but then people have told me, and I've heard you were coming, that maybe there's a better way than just dealing with Google Maps, which is only part of this equation. So my question is about the aggregators. How do you get the right, is there a way to get the right information to the aggregators so that people will have a better presence overall, or do you go to the individual map things and one by one fix them and have people claim their presence on the maps?
The aggregators are the source of the data for the maps. So the first place to start is to make sure that your business address is correct.
Right.
And if you have any question about that, each town has what's called they call it a licensing officer that determines what the name of your street is. A lot of people are going to this E911 has changed street names and all that kind of thing. So once you determine what the name of your street is for your business, then that will get listed with an aggregator. That'll throw out to the different maps.
But how does it get listed? What do do you talk to these aggregators?
You can pick the one I listed on the sheet there. There was a bunch of them listed.
Yeah.
And you can get onto any one of their sites and see if you've got a business that has an EIN number, 90% chance you've already got a rudimentary listing on one of the aggregators.
That's where it comes from, yeah.
And then you want to start flushing that out, because a lot of times whoever filled out that form for the EIN number, typically they're an accountant or someone that's just trying to get through the process, doesn't necessarily have a vested interest in. They might get the name of the business, they might truncate it, shorten somewhat, or they might have they might leave out things like suite numbers. Hugely important if you're in a building with other buildings nearby. And then a category name. A lot of times your accountant might categorize your business, and they might call you, like for this woodworking example, they might call you a retailer. When in fact, you really want to be a woodworker. You know, so you got to look at any one of these aggregators at first and see how they're currently listing you. Remember I said you can have 5, and then flesh out one listing to begin with, and then take it from there.
If you fix one aggregator, does it fix all of them?
No, unfortunately, someone asked me this way back when, why is there only one map? And once you get listed, you'll start understanding how many people try to call you up and sell you advertising. So Google Maps and Apple Maps, arch rivals. They're all competing with each other. So unfortunately, you need to know what your customers are using and correct those maps first. If you're selling Apple products, by golly, you ought to be on Apple Maps. And Google's not going to help you out at all. So you can start with one aggregator. When we work with people, we can automate that process if someone really wants to get involved. But you got to understand what your market is first, because the worst thing to do is to try to do overexposure on any of this, because then you're not going to have time to do both a nice Facebook page and build out a Pinterest page, and your customers are going to think, well, you know, you're really not serious about it.
Can I add one thing about security, I guess, for lack of a better term? How many people here work out of your home? Okay. It's personally, this is important to me, and I found out kind of the hard way and fixed it really quickly. I didn't want my home address on the internet.
Right.
I didn't want my business name to be linked to my home address. So when I found out that that was happening, when I was early on starting my business, I went and I got a box at a UPS store.
That's what I did.
I didn't want a P.O. box because sometimes that's viewed as not as professional. Depends on who you talk to. I got a UPS store box. It's a physical address. I can accept packages there. It shows up on a map, so if somebody goes there and they see that it's a UPS store, they're going to email me, they're going to call me. I don't want somebody showing up at my house, okay, because I don't see clients at my house. So that's just something to consider when you're working with these aggregators and your business listings, wherever you're being listed. Make sure that you're being careful about what address you're putting there and where you really want to be found.
Can I add one thing to that in the same vein? Is if you only have one phone number and it's your cell number and it's personal, then you can go onto Google and you can get a Google Voice number. It's free, and it will have 802, and you can pick a number, and then you can put that on your business card, your website, wherever, and then people will call that number and it'll forward to your cell. So that's another piece of, it's just, you know, you don't want people calling you at all times. You don't want your personal address and your personal phone number out there.
And the other thing about Google numbers, the phone number, is if you don't want phone calls at any hour, or you're not in a position where you can accept phone calls, you can have that forward to your email. And you get the actual voicemail recording in email.
And you get a transcript.
And
then it transcribes and it comes to your phone if you set up notifications so you can read it.
We love that. That's a really good point, because your primary data record out there is your phone number. And if you've got a cell phone number that you've used someplace, if you Google your own cell phone number, you'll find that it might be connected to some other business that you worked at some point in time. So having a unique number for your business is very, very important, because that's going to identify all this other data that gets associated with it.
I'm going to take you down a little path down story time lane. The second to last cell phone number I had for a week. I got a new cell phone, new plan. I was all excited, got a new shiny phone. And within 24 hours, I was getting collection calls left and right because the number was recycled from somebody else who wasn't really good about paying their bills. Probably why they didn't have a cell phone anymore. So if somebody were to Google my phone number, that cell phone number, they could find all kinds of interesting info that had nothing to do with me or my business. So totally, Google Voice, or if you want to up it up to an 800 number, you'll use something like Grasshopper or Ring Central, and those can also port to your cell phone or your house phone.
That's a great point. If you get a new phone number from one of the existing landline carriers, before you accept it, Google it. Because if it's a business that went out of business and they have released their phone number and you grab it, all of their listings are going to be associated to that phone number. So as you start trying to create your own identity, you're going to be fighting all the internet information about that phone number and all the refrigerator magnets that have that number on it. So check your number before you take it.
So I have one. There's different types of internet, social media out there. Which ones are better for which businesses? You know, I've heard, Pinterest is for, things that are craft and things that parents want for their kids and things like that. LinkedIn for businesses. So, overview of which social media sites are best for what type of business.
I think it comes down to the customer for that particular business and where they are hanging out online. It's not necessarily for any particular type of business. It's a demographic. It's a much bigger picture than that. So it really comes down to the individual business and who their customer is, and then where they are.
So what are some of the ones that, like millennials?
Well, certainly the visual, like Pinterest and things like that. So if you're an artist or if you're a realtor or you're a decorator or you're a woodworker, having those visual places to be Pinterest housed, if it makes sense, Houzz, are places to be. Etsy, of course, if you're crafting and selling. And then, Facebook, I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis. Facebook is really a great place for dialogue, conversation, and building relationships. As far as business, again, depending on what your business is. So if you are, what's a good example for a business that's using Facebook well? I'm drawing a blank. Let's say it's a realtor, just for the sake of example. So that realtor who you probably know that lives in your community or region can post listings that are in that region. They can ask questions. They can post things about property taxes, interest rates at local banks going up. They can post the kinds of things that are good information that people want, and can answer questions and can build a relationship so that there's a dialogue online. Okay, that realtor also may belong on LinkedIn because that person is their brand. They are, as you all know, realtors may work with a company, but they're competitive with the people even within their own company. So they want to stand out. So LinkedIn's a place for them to make sure they make themselves stand out with their experience or whatever from that standpoint. And so some places, Facebook may not be the place you want to be. It may not be a place to build a relationship. Maybe Twitter is more appropriate for you. If God, I'm having a brain cramp on what kind of businesses.
Well, it's also, getting back to Pinterest and Facebook, it's not necessarily if you're a crafter what your product is. It's who's your customer. Is your customer, a mom who is surfing Pinterest because she's exhausted at the end of the day and she's looking for DIY stuff? I don't know, but if she's on Pinterest in the evening and you want to reach her, then there's a way to get into her Pinterest feed. You just have to be a little creative. In terms of the Facebook, for example, and Instagram building relationships, there's a clothing store in Stowe called In Company, and Devin, the owner, does a fantastic job not only promoting her own products really tastefully and creatively, but also promoting other local businesses. Hey, did you know that so-and-so is having a pop-up coffee at this restaurant or this shop, or hey, this store is closing, let's go help support them. This community event is happening, like all of these other things that she's kind of serving as this central hub of information for the community, and she's posting to Instagram and to Facebook. And so that's an example of a creative way to really build your relationships with people that can help you, not only just buy from you.
It's also a great place to just, as we say with using social media, show the love. Just will show it back to you. So if you do talk about like InStyle and talking about the things that are going on in your community or region or industry type of thing, showing the love to those other people, even though they may be your competitors, it shows goodwill. And especially in a place like Vermont, if you're a Vermont-based company, that's kind of like the Vermont way. You know what I mean? So that really can work well here for you.
Yeah. It's all about relationships.
It is.
Are there any beer lovers here?
Beer lovers. 2?
Oh my God. So if you actually follow on Instagram any of the breweries in Vermont, any, from the Alchemist to even Woodchuck's a great example, Woodchuck Cider House, they will do Instagram where they'll turn over their account to their competitor. And their competitor will post on their social media site, they could say, hey, Woodchuck sucks, but they're not. They're going to say, oh my God, we love Gumption, even all the way over here at the Alchemist. So that's a great way of just using Instagram and building your ties within your industry. Yeah, it's your competitors. You all have different products though, and you have to stand out and make yourself stand out.
From a location standpoint, if you've got a business that you want someone to come to, of course, the big dog is TripAdvisor, which does hotels, restaurants, and kind of the interesting twist with TripAdvisor is an attraction. So if we're working with a farm up in Maine, there's no farm category in TripAdvisor, but there is farm tours in TripAdvisor. So all of a sudden, that's what he's going to be classified as. Yelp also gets into the location services for restaurants, shopping. If you're doing any type of retail, it's good to put that category into Yelp, and it'll show you within 5 miles who else is doing that type of thing. So a lot of the location services, you put in the category, and it'll show you who else is doing what you're considering and also how they're doing it, give you a good idea. Yelp is also a huge feed now. They've done a good job of getting their name out there. And if you have a Yelp listing, it'll get picked up by a bunch of other people. So that's a good one to be on.
I have a question about e-commerce. So I'm trying to figure out whether I want to do my own processing through my website using something like WooCommerce, or whether I want Amazon to do my processing or some other processor. I mean, I have clearly a security concern. I don't want to, be responsible for divulging, sensitive information, have that come back on me. But I want my e-commerce site to be legit enough that it doesn't feel like it's, I just want it to flow well, have from a user experience. It's kind of thinking about a few things there. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on just e-commerce in general, how to build a site safely and securely and have it. If there's just like clear-cut alternatives, I think WooCommerce, it's amazing to me how easy it is to set an e-commerce site. Using WooCommerce, maybe I feel like it's almost too easy because it's a lot of responsibility there.
WooCommerce is great. WooCommerce runs on WordPress. It's a add-on to WordPress websites that allow you to have the store. It's free software. There are, depending on what you want to do, everything that you want to do usually requires an add-on that's going to cost some money. you also are responsible for the security, so you need a SSL certificate for your site, which is like $25 or something, but you have to get it installed. It's a layer of responsibility for you, certainly. I prefer, personally, and I've helped a fair number of clients with this, Shopify. So what we've done pretty regularly now, what we recommend is a WordPress website so that they can, manage all the content on their website and a Shopify store, and you can make them look seamless so that you really don't know that you're going back and forth between the two. The benefit...
Like a frame within your site?
We call it skin, so we make a theme that matches for both. You can have your entire site on Shopify if you want to. Not my preference for a few different reasons, but the store itself, they're responsible for the security. They handle the payment processing, and they have a number of different packages at different price points that are reasonable. And you can go from a simple store for like $29 a month or something, all the way up to something that allows for a cart abandonment, like you can contact people who leave with an empty cart, international shipping, drop shipping, you name it, real-time carrier rates.
WooCommerce would have similar solutions for all of those things, right?
They do.
And like I said, everything you want to add on to the base, which is pretty limited, is going to cost you money, and that is renewable every year. So you can end up spending just as much, if not a lot more, than something that's already got all that. So you just have to decide, what are the features you need? What risk are you willing to take in terms of being responsible for this information? And then just weigh the differences and pick which one works best for you. Does that help? Yeah. And I know that there are people who have great results with Amazon. The thing about Amazon is it's on Amazon, so you want to have something that's your own presence too.
It's just, I don't know the lingo, but I've set it up just like a dummy shopping cart where it's pretty seamless, and Amazon's very reasonably priced, and it's really just sort of regular credit card processing fees.
And you're certainly going to reach a lot of people there, so.
And I feel like there's a comfort level there. People just, they know that it's Amazon. They feel that that's bulletproof. So.
And you can have more than one too. If you wanted Amazon and separate store, you can do that. Yeah. You're welcome.
So I have a question about going back to the telephone numbers again. On an e-commerce site where you're selling product, how important do you think it is to have that telephone number there for customers to reach? Do you think it ought to be an 800 number, or do you think it's okay just to be doing that customer contact with email and those kind of things?
Well, what's your product? If you don't mind me
So right now we're starting out with custom created handcrafted duck calls, but we're also going to do some other market segment ones.
Okay. So is that a type of product or industry where people, if they wanted to place an order, because some people just aren't comfortable placing an order online. So if they wanted to call you up and place an order, that happens with me with my service business. Sometimes they don't want to do it online, but they just want to call me and pay that way. So is that something that happens more than not, or are most people comfortable online?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. We're just getting it all started. And to make the best impression, I want to know just kind of people's thoughts on how, like you were trying to make sure people didn't find your home and whatnot, I really don't want them to find my personal cell phone number.
Right.
But they've already found it. I don't want them to, be driving by my house because I actually want to operate as an e-commerce and a mail order. So
maybe an 800 number might make sense.
So who's your target client? If your ideal client was on this piece of paper, what would it say? Is it male? Is it female? What age group?
It's mostly male.
And hunters, right?
Active hunters, fishermen, outdoors people.
Age range? 18 to...
70?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So once you identify, if you can identify it down smaller, to a smaller niche, that'll help you with that decision. Let's say, for example, your target age group was 25, the 21 to 25 age frame. Phone number? Probably not.
Right.
Email? Probably not. They would want a Twitter account. That's how a lot of the millennials that's what they look for customer service. Someone who's probably in the 35 to 50 year age group, they're going to want a combination of ways to get in touch with you. It could be an 800 number, it could be an email, it could be Twitter, and you can have all those different options. If you use a service like Ring Central, you can have a local number and or a toll-free number that can ring to whatever number you want it to, or it can ring right to your computer. But you can set up rules so that after 5 p.m., it automatically goes to voicemail. It doesn't even ring. So, and that's what I actually have for my practice. At 4 o'clock, if you want to talk to me, you're going to get voicemail if you call my 800 number. So the more you identify how they're going to want to communicate with you, that might help you out a little bit better. I always say that there's nothing wrong with having a toll-free number, even in this day and age.
Also, take a look at what your competitors are doing. Are they putting up a phone number? I mean, see what a few of your other competitors are doing too, and get a feel for where they're trying to reach, and see what they're doing. That might help you make a decision.
So I have a very specific question. I mean, I have a good feel for what my demographic is. I sell boating accessories, e-commerce. 45 and up age-wise. They own a boat, obviously. Boat size is 25 foot or larger. Some are very big boats. Sailboat, powerboat. They spend a good deal of time on their boat. Some of people, a lot of my customers are liveaboards. They don't have even a home on land. They live on their boat year-round. I sell to men and women, depending on the product. So I feel that my best social media, because of the age of my customers, is Facebook. I have a presence on Yelp and Pinterest. Pinterest is really more beneficial. I see stuff coming from there. I don't see a lot of customers come in from Facebook directly to my site through Google Analytics, but I know people are finding me that way, and they do come to my site, but they may not, and so I'm wondering, from your perspective, what's sort of the best social media for that kind of a demographic?
From the Facebook standpoint, even if maybe you're not seeing on your analytics that you're getting a lot of people from there, but you're seeing engagement, then that's good. And plus, people now, if they go to your website first, they're going to look to see if you have some kind of social media, even if it's just one thing. So if it's Facebook, they're likely going to click on that because they're going to expect to find something that they might not find on your website. They're going to want to see what you say to your customers and how you converse with them, and are you providing them good information and this and that. So sometimes just having that presence on Facebook, and even if you're only posting once or twice a week on something, just the fact that you're there and you have another way for somebody to learn about you is a good thing. So I wouldn't say don't do Facebook because you're not getting clients. If it's working for you because you're getting some level of engagement, and I presume you're local?
Yeah, I'm local.
Yeah.
I sell very little to Vermonters.
Yeah, okay.
Virtually nothing.
Oh, okay.
It's all, I sell internationally too, so.
Twitter might make sense for you. Are you using it?
I do. Anything I post on Facebook automatically goes to my Twitter account.
Okay.
So,
It's important to also monitor the, like Facebook, for example. One thing, when I'm looking into doing business with a company, the first thing I do when I go to their Facebook page is I look for the post-to-page, posts from other people, because I want to see what other people are saying to them and if they're responding and how they're responding. So it's good to it's important to monitor your page and see if people are messaging you, see if people are asking you questions, making comments, and responding to them in a timely fashion, because people pay attention to that.
okay.
So whatever channel you choose to use, make sure that you use it.
In that same vein, some people will say, like for Yelp, for example, what if somebody said something really bad? Maybe it's not even true, but they're going to post something because you ticked them off or something like that. People will say, do I delete the comment? And I would argue that you do not. You respond in a way that shows however you want to be diplomatic and fair. I'm sorry you didn't have a good experience. Please private message me and we can talk about how they might work this out. But if you post something like that, or whatever your response is or offer is to them, then people will see that you're paying attention and you care about your customer. So don't just delete it because something's bad, and unless it's like profane and it's just awful. Mm-hmm. But use that as an opportunity to show how your sense of ethics and integrity, and let that stand on its own, because people are pretty smart about that stuff, and they also know what trolls are, people who just like to go out there and just be negative and mean.
And it can also identify if there's, if somebody's constantly if you continually see comments saying, takes too long to respond, guess what? Internally, you need to work on your response time, so it's a training exercise for you as well.
Like it or not, social media is making everybody more accountable. And it's not to say that you're not, but people want answers faster and they want response. And if you're not out there, that can hurt you too. The thing is that I would say to everybody though is if you're going to be out there, make sure you're out there in a way that works for you, make it doable. Don't think that don't overwhelm yourselves, because if you do that, then you're not going to do it. And then not doing it, having a presence looks bad, because then it's like, oh my God, he hasn't posted for 6 months.
Right.
Be consistent.
Yeah, you do want to survey the internet for your own business listings, because a lot of this, once someone is submitted to one of these aggregators, it's an automated process. So you could have a site on Yelp, for example, that one of your customers created for you, and people start responding and asking you questions, and if you're not there responding, then it reflects bad on you. It's a real pain to monitor that, but it's very, very important, especially if you end up getting like multiple locations, because the phone is going to tell the people that they can find you at this location, and they're going to ask you questions, and you got to, if you're on one of these sites, you have to be responsive to it.
I've noticed that most of the people who've liked my Facebook page are from Africa. How did they find me? I mean, my business is very local. And
what's your business, or what do you do?
Video production.
Well, what kind of? Are you getting comments, or are they just liking it?
Mostly they just like it. Every now and then somebody will say, "Oh, this is great," or something. But
there's a big Facebook scam where people, and this is actually something that is active with my practice. There is a gentleman in Africa who claims that he works in my practice and has for, 5 years? Never met him, never talked to him. And he does something, I want to say it might even be video related, and that's not something we do. It's a way that they establish a sense of employment, so that if they go for employment in their country, oh yes, I work for so-and-so, or I've worked with so-and-so. And by starting the liking process, some people will automatically say, hey, can I be an admin? Can I get editorial function features, permissions on your Facebook page? And if you're not aware of that, oh, you want to edit some of my comments? Sure. Yeah, don't ever do that. But that is a very common scam.
There's a lot of people out there, too, that pay people in other countries. You might get requests on LinkedIn and things like that for people from India claiming to be part of a company in Texas or something like that. And there's a lot of that going on, too, that are paid to just go on and like things. So what I would say is if somebody's liking you and they're not doing anything or saying anything nasty or weird or posting things about, like, here I am in Africa and you need to send me $10,000 to get me out, then if that's happening, just go in and disconnect from them. It's not like they get a notice. Same on LinkedIn. It's not like they get a notice saying so-and-so just dissed me.
You can block people.
You can block people. But, like for me, for example, with my LinkedIn business, I work with people all over the world. So if I do get a request from somebody out of the country, I do have my little formula of how I test them to see, well, they could be a potential client. And I learned how to, I have my own little test for fake LinkedIn profiles, because people can be have fake profiles, and they're doing what's phishing, called phishing, phishing, which is they're just trying to get your information so they can try to sell you something or this or that. But yes, unfortunately it happens, but if they're not doing anything to hurt you, then it doesn't hurt. And if you don't want it, then just disconnect from them.
So this is a question about the LinkedIn equivalent, right? So in terms of people who want to link to you, I have an outdated haiku length LinkedIn profile, one of those that works against you, right? But because people will sometimes hear me, in a conference presentation, or they've read something that I've written that's been published, I can't really differentiate who might have heard something in that setting versus somebody who's just randomly, for whatever reason, trying to ramp up their number of LinkedIn connections. So I'm wondering if you have any tips or suggestions, strategies, do's, don'ts around
Accepting?
accepting and handling LinkedIn contacts, and then also the part that I like least around the whole, what do we call it with LinkedIn? The endorsements, right. Because I have people endorsing me for things that I don't do, which I'm sure others experiences. I don't do, I don't want to do, and or I do, but I know they know nothing about because they're a family member or a friend in a completely different field.
Well, let me answer that first, and it's a pretty simple answer to that. So there's a big difference between endorsements and recommendations on LinkedIn. Recommendations you want, because those are actual things that people are saying about you, like a testimonial, and you want those. And they have to post them in order for you to get them. The endorsements feature is, frankly, what I say is a gimmick of LinkedIn, and it's similar to the like button on Facebook, okay? That doesn't mean it doesn't have some value, okay? But you can go into the back end in your privacy and settings and you can turn that off, okay? You can turn it off. You also can go into the section where the skills are. So if somebody's, let's just say you're a CPA and somebody has put in that you're good at writing newsletters, okay, like a publication, then that means that skill has been, even though that popped up for them, it's a default, LinkedIn threw it out there. They click on it, that skill then goes into your skills list. You can go in there and take that out so it doesn't pop up again. So just take a look at it every now and then, but you can go in and turn that off. You can actually also turn it off so that either people don't endorse you and that you don't get asked to endorse others. However, that said, if you start a LinkedIn profile and people endorse you, it's good to have some of those little thumbnails and faces in there so it's not blank, especially if you are job seeking. So that's just the other the other side of the hand. What was your other, the invitation, the invites? Well, that's a really long subject in and of itself, so I'll just give you kind of a very cursory answer on that. What I do, if something seems to, first of all, check everything. When you get that invitation and you can hover over it, it says X or check. Click on the thumbnail of their photo and take a quick glance at their profile. Look to see where they're from, see what industry they're in. Is it going to hurt you to be connected to them if they might be a professional and this and that? Then accept them, because that's the whole point of having a network, is you want to increase your network. If they don't seem to be at all relevant with what you want to do, okay, or what you do for a living, and they're in wherever they live and it's not relevant to you at all, it's not going to help you in any way, then don't connect with them. Just click the X mark. Again, they're not going to get a notice saying that you didn't accept. Sometimes people are doing just that. They're trying to build their numbers up. Once you reach 500 plus, LinkedIn boosts your way up. That said, don't go after the numbers. Go after relevancy. I can't say it enough. There are fake LinkedIn profiles, and I'll just say, if you feel like one is fake, look at someone's picture. Usually they look about they're 20 years old, and then you go down to their education, and they have a master's degree. Like that they got when they were 12, apparently. So if something just doesn't feel right to you, or it looks fake or too good to be true, or things are written in capital letters like they're keyword stuffing, just check it off. You can tell that in 60 seconds. So those are like the quick things. Does that answer your question?
So we've run out of time because we do have to leave the building at 7. They like to close at 7. But the credit union has been very good to help sponsor us. I do want to thank the panel here. They've done a wonderful job. This is a huge subject. And it's very hard.